All right, we are going to get started. There might be a few people who are joining us just a little bit late, but we're going to do just some basic introductions for the moment. So welcome to this workshop. This workshop is intended for graduate students or early career researchers, so hopefully you fall into that category or into a category that supports early career researchers or graduate students. So my name is Emma Moles. I am a scholarly communication librarian in the social sciences and humanities. It's nice to see all of you here. I have two colleagues that are going to be presenting today, Megan and Hope. They'll introduce themselves as they do their section of the presentation. We are recording this presentation just by audio and our screens, so if you need to leave early or you want to check back, you'll have all the information available on the research guide that we're actually going to use for this workshop, which is where we're going to start. So we have some hands-on periods in this workshop, and you are more than welcome to follow along. Following along will actually help you kind of grasp some of the ideas that we're working with a little bit easier. So we're going to go to the library website. If you don't know how to get there, just from the university homepage, also under academics, you can click on library. And then from the library webpage, we're going to go down just a little bit on about a quarter way down the page to research and course guides. And the easiest way to get there is actually, you can search for the guide, or for right now, if you click on By Owner on that Sort tab, and then Office of Scholarly Communication, the guide that we have, which we can also send you when this workshop concludes, is called How to Build an Academic Online Presence for Graduate Students. All right, was everyone able to get there all right? I know it's a few clicks. Great. And if you have any questions throughout this, feel free to just raise your hand. Megan and Hope will also be available for assistance on the hands-on portions. So this guide was put together by the three of us who are presenting, and the goal is to give you maybe some additional tools that you've not yet worked with, or maybe tools that you've interacted with briefly, but you'd like to learn a little bit more about, to help promote yourself as a researcher, and that could be something as, not as simple, but as concrete as your graduate thesis or dissertation, or posters or presentations that you've done as a grad student or early career researcher. So we're kind of moving away from thinking about, how do people find you online? So away from sort of set up a LinkedIn account to can you actually share the research and work that you've done here at Iowa State and after Iowa State with future employers, future colleagues, or future universities that you might be moving into. So this homepage that you'll land on is just kind of a brief explanation of kind of the goals of this workshop. There's also tools here for you to contact your subject librarian. So here at Iowa State, every department has a librarian associated with it. If you're in kind of an interdepartmental program, chances are that means you have two librarians. So we're not leaving anybody out. So if you have questions that come up throughout your research here, as to how to use a research tool very specific to your discipline, please know that there are librarians who are more than eager to help you out with that. And there's a link here under subject librarians where you can find that information. So we had a few reasons for putting together this workshop. Both Megan and Hope and I are all part of kind of an open access movement. So we like to give research in the hands of researchers. So that when you leave the university, if you're going into industry or into an institution that doesn't have access to as much research, you'll be able to access it. Megan will speak to that a little bit more at the end. Another reason was that this book came out. I think it made the New York Times best-selling list in some subcategory. That was kind of how to brand yourself as a graduate student moving out into either industry or further into higher education. And one of the parts was that about this book was actually building your online presence. So the author of this book has a few tips that are related to, getting your email out and your name out online, but we are also going to teach you how to get your work out online. So this is where we move into the first hands-on portion. So on the left-hand side, you can see there's a few tabs. We're going to now go to the second one, Claim Your ORCID ID. So what an ORCID ID is and why it's valuable kind of has multiple parts to it. So an ORCID ID is a specific, unique identifier for researchers. So similar to right now you're at Iowa State, they give you a university ID. ORCID IDs are IDs that are attached to researchers themselves. So they're not specific to universities, to what level of a researcher you are. It's kind of like if you're a US native and you have a social security number, it's similar to a social security number, except it's applied to your research, and you don't need to keep it private because you want to push out what research you have actually done. So it helps claim your research as belonging to you. So one of the reasons that we do this is because a lot of people have similar names. So if your name is Tom Jones, there's lots of Tom Joneses in the world. This is a way to have something unique that is beyond your name. So before we go into actually registering for one, I want to show you a little bit of what an ORCID profile looks like. So this is a fictional character that ORCID has created to show you what a profile looks like. So there's quite a bit going on in this profile. So you can see the researcher has his name listed. And then this long number is actually what that researcher's ORCID ID is. Now, on this profile page, you can also build it to showcase the work that you've done. So here, Josiah has a little biography about himself. He also has additional names that he's used to publish under. Now, this can be incredibly helpful if you have a name that native English speakers screw up, if you have a name that people are terrible at spelling, and every time you submit a research proposal, an admin assistant butchers the name on it. This is a fantastic way to list names that you've gone by in the past, and that can be by accident or intentionally. So also, if you change your name at some point, you can list that there if you'd like. If we scroll down a little, it also gives you an opportunity to list your employment. And one part that's not on here, which you may be interested in adding, is you can also list your education. So if you have an undergraduate degree from Brown and now you're here for your PhD from Iowa State, you can add each of those things into your profile. And then one of the most useful parts here is actually listing the work that you've done. So for some of you, the work that you've done may look different right now than it will in the future. But when we're talking about works, we're really talking about kind of broad understandings of works. So not just traditional journal publications or book publications, but also be thinking about posters you've presented at graduate conferences, maybe working group papers that you've done and shared with a department that you would like to put online for others to read. So wherever that stuff lives, and both Megan and Hope will show you places where you can actually put that online to host your works, you can link to all of those here. So if I know that I did a conference poster at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and that poster is on a website for the Department of Family Studies, I can just put the link in to my ORCID profile, fill in some very simple metadata about the work that I've done, and it's automatically part of my ORCID profile then. Something that you can't really see on the profile level is the other thing where ORCID comes into play is an increasing amount of publishers and granting agencies are now requesting that when people submit applications to them, they include their ORCID identifier. So it's, again, another piece of data besides your name for people to understand who you are. So perhaps you've already been doing this as I've been talking, but we're now going to sign up for ORCID identifiers. So again, from the guide that we've put together, it's just the second tab. And kind of right in that first section, we have register for an ORCID ID. If you already have one, sit tight. You can help out your neighbor if you'd like, or you can show us your profile. But we're going to go ahead now and sign up for an ORCID ID. One quick thing to note is you do have the option to change your email address later. So if you register with your Iowa State email address, and you know you're not always going to have an Iowa State email address, it's all right. You can go in later and change that. So it's not super critical what email you register with. Please let us know if you have any questions when you're signing up. The most useful way to create an ORCID profile is to have it be public, at least some of your information. So keep that in mind. If you have a private profile, nobody will ever be able to see it. And let us know if there's any technical glitches. Okay. So if you've successfully registered, don't worry, we're not moving on if you haven't yet. Go ahead and start filling out some of the fields. So let me show you quick. In the education field, if you go to add education, add manually, if you start to type in Iowa State University, it will autofill to that option. And with each entry, you can set the privacy level too. Don't have that problem that we had last time?
No, it's working.
Awesome. So we're going to give everyone just a few minutes to play around in this system. Oh, okay. Sure, yep. So as you're kind of just filling things out, a couple other things about ORCID is that you certainly don't have to memorize that number. I mean, if you're very good at memorizing numbers, then I guess you could in your free time. I don't have my ORCID identifier memorized. Instead, if I go to the ORCID website, I can just search for my name or for the names of people that I know, and if they have a public profile, it will show me their profile. All right, we're going to move on to the next section of the workshop, but please keep this tab open. We'll come back to it, and at the end, if you have time, you are welcome to stay. We'll finish earlier than planned, so you're welcome to stay later in this lab and ask us questions one-on-one or work on any of the things that we're going to show you today. So I'm going to turn our recording microphone over to my colleague Megan, who's going to talk a little bit more about open systems and why those will actually be some of the systems that you'll be able to leverage most.
Okay, hopefully that works. So we're going to go back on the guide. Hopefully everyone still kept that open. And we're going to go down to that third page, open access and the cost of research. And you guys probably have already experienced this a bit yourself, but here at Iowa State, we're really, really lucky because the university invests a lot of money into giving us access to research. And I've actually put a price tag on here that says $12 million. And that's actually probably a little under what we spend on materials at the library. And I don't just mean like journals and books, I mean the databases you use as well. And those are really expensive. We're actually under contract and can't even tell you how much some of those are because they don't want people to know. It's kind of weird that way. But you guys are lucky, you have this access, but when you graduate and your account times out, suddenly those doors shut. And so the question is that's not a good system. I've had it happen to me. I used to work in a state lab that had no money to pay for these kinds of tools. If we got anything, it had to be in paper because electronic was too expensive. And so the question is there a better way? And then a better way has started to emerge over the last couple years. And I'm sure you guys have all heard of open access by now. There's probably been some debate about if something's good or bad in open access in your departments. And we just kind of want to talk about how research is shared and what open access really means. So one thing that's obvious is that you cannot do research today in this age without access to materials at all. You're expected to do exhaustive literature searches. You're expected to be able to find some paper your advisor casually mentions only by name and year. I've had that happen. That's also fun. And if you don't have the right tools, it's impossible to find, or you find it, suddenly they want you to pay $30 for the paper. It's not fun. These are closed systems, so when you see that price tag, that $30, that means you've encountered something that's known as a paywall. And the other kind of paywall that I often encounter is ones that want personal information from me in exchange for something. I just attended a thing on Saturday where I got access to a free book, but they wanted my email. And I decided, you know what, that's okay, you can have my email because I do want a copy of this book. So, I am giving them something in exchange. I'm giving them personal information. So academia.edu, for example, doesn't cost you anything, but they are paid for by venture capital, which means at some point they're going to have to return a profit. So if you use that system, you're giving them a lot of information in exchange, even though it's cost money-wise free. So Elsevier, which I'm sure everyone has heard of, one of the largest publishers in the world for academic resources, has just ridiculous profit margins. It's disgusting, frankly. So if you go to publish a paper, while they have many prestigious journals, just realize you are feeding that system. You're providing research that other people probably helped fund, that you've put a lot of money in, and corporate Elsevier is probably going to make a profit off of. So I have just this little breakdown of open and closed systems. So for example, Netflix, closed system. You can only get to it if you have a subscription. YouTube has ads. You may have to watch a couple seconds of annoying video, but it's open. ResearchGate, academia.edu. Parts of it are open and parts of it are closed. It's kind of strange. ResearchGate has started opening things up and has blocked off other parts. Academia.edu has done some of the same things, where you can only get the bonus things if you sign up. Our digital repository at Iowa State, which Hope is going to go over, is definitely an open system. You do not have to sign up to get anything. Anyone in the world can access it and download everything that's in it. Completely open. Once again, closed system, most academic publishers, you can only get in if you pay. Luckily for everyone here, the library is paying for things for you. And open access publishers, on the other hand, places like PLOS, the Public Library of Science, PeerJ, Biomed Central, some other journals that are totally open. Anyone can go in and download it. Anyone can read. No payment required. And so, to clarify, open access is to make research free and accessible to everyone. Has nothing to do with quality, which I know often comes up in conversations about open access. It's just about access. And librarians love it because our budgets are ridiculous, because that's just what they are. It's what the system has turned into. And we don't like having to tell people, we can't get you that information, or that's going to be really hard to get, or it costs too much. That happens too sometimes. It is totally compatible with peer review. It is totally compatible with copyright. And it is usually associated with very transparent license agreements like Creative Commons or, I'm trying to remember the name of the other one I just encountered. It's a software license I can't remember the name of. You can look it up. And so you know exactly what you can do with it. And what is the author, you know exactly what you can do with it too. So you can put it up on your own website. You can share it with colleagues. You don't have to worry about violating copyright because you still retain the copyright. You haven't given it to a publisher. So it's a pretty neat system. But you have to understand what it is before you can participate. So did you guys all get an email from me yesterday? How many of you brought research materials with you or something you could share? Anyone? Okay, a couple people. If you didn't, that's fine. I'm still going to show you how to share information, but if you actually brought something with you, you can actually upload along with me. So we're going to go to that next tab, Share Your Work with Figshare. And so Figshare is a kind of a neat service. They're an online repository for sharing research in a citable manner. And also it provides a search engine, so that means people can actually find it too. They don't just have to click, click, click and hope they get there. So we're going to go ahead and have everyone sign up for a Figshare account too, but first I want to show you a sample profile. And he's described himself as fledgling PhD student, which is entertaining. And what he's done is now listed all of his publications, many of which are actually, I think, open access. And if you keep going down, you can see all the data he's shared. Because the neat part about Figshare is you don't just have to put your papers in here, you can put anything in Figshare. And so you can put figures for your figures, data sets, movies, and sound files. All sorts of files are supported. I put in slides from presentations often because I know people weren't able to attend and they'd like copies, so I just stick them up in there so people can get them. And like this one's really goofy, but I think it's a Lord of the Rings thing. Yeah, it's taxonomy for Lord of the Rings. That's pretty great. Or maybe it's World of Warcraft, I can't tell. but he has just some goofy slides that he presented at a conference. But so that one, he still has 5 downloads, even though this is something goofy, and 171 people have opened it and looked at it. So someone has found it useful, even if it's just me laughing at it. But if you go up on here, I think it was barn swallows. I cannot type on this keyboard. Yes, I'm getting there. So I like this video, and you won't, I don't think sound is going to come out if it loads, but it's kind of entertaining because this guy's trying to film barn swallow behavior in the middle of a street in Japan. So his camera's like, whoop, whoop, because the bird's flying around. But this is actually supplementary information, data, that goes with a published journal article published by Sage. So what happens is that this guy, Taylor and Francis, so he published a peer-reviewed article through a journal that Taylor and Francis owns, and Taylor and Francis has partnered with Figshare to make that data available. Free. You have to pay to get to the article, but the data is free, so that's kind of neat. And your data, whether or not it goes with an article, is treated the exact same way as this data by putting it in the system. And Emma was just saying the way that this differs from an ORCID account is that this assigns identifiers to your data sets. And then you can link that to your ORCID, which is an identifier for you. And so people can then look up you and see everything you've done. Because all the websites talk together. They all use the same data. So I'm going to go ahead and sign into my Figshare account. If you haven't got ahead and started sign up, yes? Yes. So have you heard of something called supplementary information? So what happens is journals have partnered with Figshare to have their supplementary information files hosted on Figshare. And so what happens if I, as an author, publish with Elsevier, I'll just use that. Elsevier's partnered with Figshare. I supply my ORCID to Elsevier when I publish. The ORCID is now going to be tied to my article and to my data, even though the article is with Elsevier and the data is in Figshare. So they can track both of those together back to me. And that's why this is very valuable. What? You have some control over this because you can also go into your ORCID profile and manually add things. So if your publisher doesn't do it for you, you can add it. Yep. Yep. Yes. And usually your publisher is going to be doing that for you. But there are other ways to do that as well. So we're actually going to go into that. That's so if you put up the data and the publisher didn't, you're going to fill out metadata for it that describes it. Part of that could be this supplements this paper. So if you haven't already signed up, go ahead. It's free. And the nice thing about Figshare is that as long as you make your data open and public, you can put unlimited amounts up there. Now, they do limit the file sizes only because so their system doesn't flood. And also because transmitting certain amounts of large file sizes across the internet still requires some coordination. Okay, nope, don't save my password. So you can see I already have some data in here. A couple of slideshows. It says a data set, but I think that's actually a presentation. So I'm going to upload a new item. I just say create new item. It already has my name in here as an author. And I have actually linked my Figshare account to my ORCID ID. So any data I put in here is automatically going to communicate with the ORCID system and update itself. And so I have my file, and beforehand I wrote down the information about my file, which was a poster I presented at a conference. And so I have the name. I'm going to just paste that in there. And, categories. Library and information science still is not a category. Do you remember what it's under?
Information science or library information.
There it is. Studies, that's why. Has the British name for it. It is not a data set. It is a poster, which they have a category for that. And then I am going to put in a description. And for this purpose, I'm just going to do a very simple description, which was the name of the conference and the date of when it was. Now tags. Tags are really important because tags can help you actually help search results. So I know what's on my poster, and I actually talked about data management and going up for an NSF grant. They have something called broader impacts, and I talked about how those two could be combined. So I'm going to put some terms that I think are going to let people discover my poster a bit better. Oh, and you'll see it's starting to auto fill out stuff already. Data management plans, that's one of the ones I wanted.
So this is perfect for Megan because the conference she presented at didn't put her poster anywhere, right, Megan? It just, you presented it live, they didn't put it on a website, so it doesn't exist anywhere except where is your poster?
Yeah, kind of, and which was bad because I had a lot of people say, oh, can you email it to me afterwards? And I'm like, well, if they had just put my poster somewhere accessible like Figshare for the conference, I wouldn't have to email it to you. You could just go download it. But I ended up emailing a bunch of people afterwards. So I think actually data management, broader impacts, I don't remember what else I was going to, so come on, there it goes. And my mouse flicked out. Oh, just education. I'm just going to leave it at that for now. I'm going to give up on the tags. I keep pushing backspace too many times on this keyboard. The nice part is I can go back in and update this at any time because I'm uploading it, so it's not a big deal. You can preview the item. And then now I'm going to upload it. And I just realized I grabbed the ginormous PDF, but it uploaded it very fast and is already done. So it's not a problem. I had no co-authors, but for example, if Emma had co-authored with me, I can pull her up right there because she also has a Figshare account. So now license, CC BY. See that there's Apache, that's the one I was thinking of in GPL. You can do CC0, which is no attribution if you're not familiar with Creative Commons. CC BY means I just want credit if you reuse or reference it. And that's basically the default for academic stuff anyway, because when you cite a paper, you're giving attribution right there when you cite a paper. So CC BY is fine with me. And I'm going to say publish this item. And you'll see as soon as I click that, the DOI grayed out because it's going to auto give it a DOI as soon as it's published. DOI stands for Digital Object Identifier. It is a unique ID for this digital object that is trackable anywhere. I can apply an embargo if I want. So if I had kind of sensitive data and I didn't want it to come out right away, I can put like wait 6 months, then release. And then the data will be searchable and people can download it. People will still see the data in there, but they can't download it. That's how Figshare does the embargo. So it'll come up in search engines, but no one can get access to it. So I'm going to go ahead and publish because I'm going to just put it up there. And it says, are you sure you want to publish it? It's going to make it permanently available and apply a CC BY license. And I am fine with that. I presented this last year, no problem, it's done. So I'm going to say, yes, publish. Oh, that was really fast. So it's now public. I can view it. And so, oh, wow, it really did render it out pretty fast. It was a giant poster. So there it is. I have 0 views and 0 downloads because it is brand new. But now if I ever want to come back and see how it's doing and see if people have looked at it, it's right there. I can also send this link around to people. I can also send the DOI, which should be, where did they stick the DOI?
You click on share site.
That's right, there it is. There's the DOI. It gives you a citation for your data too, which is really important. So auto-formatted, you're done. It tells you when you retrieved it even. So really a nice service. You can also embed it. So if you have a private portfolio website you're building, you could just put a copy in there too without hosting it on a different website. So pretty easy to do. Yes? How do you connect Figshare and Orchid? So if I remember correctly, you go into account settings, or is it profile? I think it's profile. Okay. So to connect your Orchid, see, I've already done it, but there should be an option that says connect your Orchid. And I think you just put in your number, or you may have to log in. Yeah. Yeah. I've also put, my Twitter and my LinkedIn things here. I haven't written a bio yet, but this gives you people, if they're like, oh, I like this person's work, I want to learn a little bit more about them, well, now they can go straight to my Orchid profile, they can look at Twitter. Really nice service. You can also list publications, and none of these publications are on Figshare. It pulled these from Orchid. I didn't have to type any of it in there. It automatically found it because it's connected with Orchid. So kind of a neat thing to do. You can also see what it looks like on the public side. So when I'm not logged in, this is what people see. So.
Yeah, show your Orchid there on the side.
Oh yeah, so it shows it right here. It's really easy to find. So, oh, my ampersand broke in my title. So I'll have to fix that. But you'll see I've had 83 downloads of what I've put up, so it's kind of neat. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to transfer over to Hope, who's going to go over some really fun and exciting things like copyright with you guys. So before we switch, any other questions about Figshare or Orchid? Okay, I think we're good then.
Yeah, I did not either.
So, yeah, I didn't talk about what you can put on a Figshare, but I guess I should emphasize it is meant for research material, not sharing your vacation. So, you don't need DOIs. You probably don't want DOIs for this.
Yeah, all
On your
little pockets. I did not wear the right outfit for this today. Okay.
All right. Do you guys need a couple more minutes to play around with Figshare? Or do we want to hop into the next thing? Ready to hop in? Okay. All right. I got some nods, so I'm running with it. All right. Well, I am Hope Mitchell. Like Emma and Megan have kind of mentioned, I work with the Digital Repository here at Iowa State University. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Digital Repository, we are an online collection of entirely open access works produced by the faculty, staff, and students here at Iowa State. So today I'm here to kind of talk to you guys about building an online academic presence and sort of understanding your rights, your resources, and what you need to do to establish that online presence, and some things that Iowa State can help you with while you're here, specifically myself and the Digital Repository. So, an overview of what I'm going to talk about today. We're going to do just a brief Copyright 101. Copyright is the super scary thing that nobody likes to talk about, but it's really important to have an understanding of what do you own the copyright to, and what are you giving up when you're publishing, and what can you do with your academic outputs? And then I'll move into the benefits of open access and how to kind of maintain, publishing open access after you graduate. All right, so Copyright 101. What is copyright? Copyright just basically establishes ownership of anything we produce, what people can do with the items that we produce, or that what you can do with items that other people produce are in the copyright to, and it provides a level of protection. So if anyone infringes on your rights, it states that, you know what, nope, this belongs to me, can't play with that. Who owns copyright? This is my favorite question to ask you guys. Who in here owns copyright to anything? Do you guys own any copyrights? Anyone? No? You all do. Actually, every single person in here owns copyright. Have you ever written a paper for a class? That's totally yours. If I copy that paper, I get in a lot of trouble with the university, with Lord knows who. Gosh, have you guys ever written a poem? Have you ever drawn a picture? Ever written a song? Those things. You own the copyright to all of them. Is it any good? I don't know. But you own the copyright to it. So if you ever wanted to share it, you could. And if anyone ever tried to copy that, they would get in trouble for that. What does copyright apply to? I kind of talked about that already. Anything we produce, copyright applies to it. And then this one, I get this question a lot. Do I need to register copyright? That's kind of a yes and no question. Yes, you can register your copyright. Are you required to register it so that you own the copyright? No, absolutely not. There were points in US history where you did have to register the copyright so that you would own it. We've gotten past that now. That is not something you need to worry about. When you are submitting your thesis or dissertation through ProQuest, they will have this scary little section they give you that encourages you to pay them to register the copyright for you so that no one can steal your work and they can better protect your copyright. You can do that. You absolutely can pay them the $125, I believe it was, to register your copyright for you, but it is not necessary. The copyright is still 110% yours. So there's just a really, really, really quick introduction to copyright. So let's go into some of the things that we potentially own copyright to, or maybe once upon a time did. I used to be a graduate student here at Iowa State, and I have a lot of friends that are still in grad school. And I talk to them about open access and whatnot, and they say to me, they're like, oh, that's great, but I just haven't really done anything. I haven't produced anything yet. My thesis isn't done, or my dissertation's not done yet. I'm working on an article, and I love them do it, but I want to shake them, because you guys, we produce all the time. We are constantly producing things in grad school. So they're the basics, like our thesis and dissertation. Articles we hope to write, book reviews, we're working on, presentations and posters we give at conferences. If you're a teaching assistant, you're probably doing lesson plans, syllabi, handouts. If you're a research assistant, you might generate reports or software. And then there's just the basic everyday stuff, student projects and papers that we do. And so some of these things you do own copyright to, and then other things you may or may not. So in this first column, authors, we will all own the copyright to our thesis and dissertation. I have faculty members that say to me, they're like, I don't think I own that. Nope, you do. When it's submitted to ProQuest, ProQuest will put like a little introductory page on it that says copyright ProQuest. ProQuest owns the copyright to that one page. That's it. The rest of it is all yours. Posters and presentations. Megan totally owns the copyright to that poster she presented. She can share that wherever she wants, however she wants. And then again, student papers and projects. This middle column, this one's a little more clear-cut. Publishers generally will require you to sign a copyright transfer agreement when you're publishing in their journals under the premise that they are protecting you and your work from anyone plagiarizing it or stealing it or using it in ways that they shouldn't. So journal articles are one thing. Conference proceedings, if you present at a conference and it's published formally, they'll generally ask you to sign over a copyright transfer agreement. Book reviews and book chapters, and books as well. And hopefully when you're signing these copyright transfer agreements, they will outline a list of rights that they are giving back to you. So you're saying, okay, you know what, Elsevier, you own this article, but in return, I get to do X, Y, and Z with it, and we'll go over that here in a minute. And then there's this gray area of your employer. If you're producing anything for the purpose of doing your job. So yeah, if you're a teaching assistant and you're producing a syllabus, Iowa State technically owns the copyright to it. So since you work for an amazing institution like Iowa State University and they're so supportive of open access and sharing all your amazing work, they are just fine with you sharing your syllabus, your lesson plans, softwares or whatnot. Just don't try and sell it. That would get a little hairy. Okay, so then we'll go into some of the rights that you'll get. And I've included a couple examples of copyright transfer agreements, and I'll sum them down for you a little bit. But if we start out, so the author is hereby reserving the rights to use his or her article in the following ways. And then let's skip down to the underline portion. To use the article for educational or other scholarly purposes of the author's own institution or company. Okay, great, fine. To post the article on the author's personal or institutional website. Guys, that is really generous. That is, and they don't specify what version, so you assume that, okay, I can use the published version of my article on my departmental website, on LinkedIn, wherever I want to put it, academia.edu, what have you. Right number 3, to post the post-print manuscript draft, i.e. manuscript draft post-peer review, or uncorrected page proofs of the article on free discipline-specific public servers of preprints and or postprints, blah, blah, blah. That's a long way of saying, so before the article comes out, you can share this, like on archive.org. I think some of you engineers probably use that. So that's really great. And then right number 4, to publish the article or permit it to be published by other publishers as part of a book or anthology of which you are the author or editor. Again, this is so generous what they're giving you. This is really, really great. If all copyright transfer agreements could look like this, you guys would be in heaven, truly. On the other hand, there is the bad and the ugly when we come to copyright transfer agreements. So I think I checked. I don't think we have any accounting people in here. If we do, I'm really sorry. Call me. I can try and help you through some of this. But the American Accounting Association, here's a sample of their copyright transfer agreement. So the author hereby transfers and assigns all of the undersigned's interests in said article and the copyright thereon to the American Accounting Association, together with the right to secure renewals, reissues, and extension of such copyright, which interest and right shall be held to the full end of the term for which such copyright or any renewal or extensions thereof may be granted. They're using a lot of complicated wording there, but what that basically means is, so you're giving them copyright, and then copyright will last until 72 years after they die, which the American Accounting Association probably isn't going to die anytime soon. But then, let's say they do, they can still extend your copyright in perpetuity, forever. And then, so underneath, they're supposed to give you the list of rights that, they give back to you. Technically, they're not supposed to, but that's what they generally do. So here's the one right you get back. The author may order reprints or request permission to copy and distribute the article consistent with the American Accounting Association policies. You're like, okay, so I just have to write to them and ask if I can use this on my personal website. I have written to them on behalf of our authors here at Iowa State, and no, flat out, absolutely, positively no. They cannot use any version of their articles anywhere, ever. Like, no. Do not sign anything like this, ever, ever, ever. Ever, ever, ever. Send it to one of your librarians and let them, or send it to me at the digital repository, and we can look at this and explore some other options for you. So we've seen what looks good with anthropology. We've seen what looks bad with accounting. So here's kind of the standard. And if you guys are thinking about publishing in any journals, this website right here, Sherpa Romeo, is a good place to start and check. So this is a sample of the Annals of Science, published by Taylor and Francis. And this is a pretty standard copyright agreement that publishers have with their authors. You can use the preprint, you can use the postprint, but you can't use their published version. And then underneath you'll see there's some general conditions. This is kind of small, but those will generally say like you can post them on your personal website, or you can post it on a departmental website, or you can only post it 18 months after publication. This varies from journal to journal, but this allowing authors to use the preprint or postprint is pretty standard. And so these terms also, I get preprint, postprint, post-reviewing, author or whatever, editor's layout, all these things can get really confusing, and sometimes I think they do it just to confuse us, but here's what it means. Preprint means the Word document that you submitted to them. Whatever you sent them, that's the preprint. Postprint. This can get a little bit trickier, and publishers tend to have a little more restrictions on their postprint. Generally, it means it can contain any of their layout, and it can contain any of the changes that were made during the refereeing process. So if you can post the postprint, great, but there's really, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with sharing the preprint either. And that is something that is a little bit of pushback I get from faculty. I've had people say to me, that's great, but the manuscript's just not as pretty. It's not as pretty, and I don't want to share that. And that is entirely up to you. But in my opinion, I would rather people judge me for the content, like the academic content of my work, rather than a pretty article or whatnot. And sometimes manuscripts, they look very comparable. I've included here an example of a manuscript from an author at Iowa State University. On the left is the publisher's version, on the right is the manuscript. Both articles look pretty comparable to me, not that big a deal, but if you don't want to share your work because it's not pretty, that is entirely up to you. But I think it really is great to share your work and let people around the world be able to access it. So moving on to, okay, that's the end of the scary stuff. That is it. I promise we're moving on to open access and more fun things now. So the dream scenario, right? You guys are all going to write like award-winning theses or dissertations. You're going to gain international recognition for your work. You're going to sign a book deal, and you're going to land your dream job. It's going to be amazing. That is actually what happened to me. My thesis was about the history of prostitution here in Iowa. It won an award. Next thing I know, the Des Moines Register is calling. I'm on TV. I'm getting offers from publishers around the world. And I'm here, working this job, talking to you guys about the importance of open access. And all of this happened because my thesis was available for download. Kind of like how Megan talked about at her conference she went to last year. People are like, can you send me your poster? How many times do we oh yeah, I'll totally send that to you, and then we forget. We just completely forget. So when people wanted to know about my thesis, I was just like, oh, go to the repository. Here, it's just Google Hope Mitchell, Iowa State University. It's the first thing that pops up. And then people all over the world were able to download it, and all of these, my publisher for my book, he found it online, and all this great stuff has happened. So while that is great, and I totally hope that happens for all of you, if that does not happen, why is it important to make your work available through open access? Because we're all going to be applying for jobs someday. We all have this mentality that, we shouldn't have a presence online because we don't want employers to see our spring break trip from blah, blah, blah. And that is, we truly don't want that. But you've been doing a ton of really amazing and important work while you're here at Iowa State in grad school. And it's important that employers know about it. If you send them your resume and then they're like, oh, great, let me look up Megan O'Donnell. And it's like, she doesn't even exist. Has she done anything ever? Next, they're moving on. They don't care. It's important that you're like, oh yeah, this person is really active in their field and they're excited about what they're doing. So that's why open access is important. Another reason it's important is, another reason I think people should be more open to open access is it's not all or nothing. Some pushback I've gotten from people about open access is they're like, well, I want to turn my dissertation, I need to turn it into a book so that I can get a job and get tenure, or I need to turn my thesis into a patent application, and so I can't share it. You can't share it right now, is what you should be saying, and is the thought process you should have. You can share it later down the road. We can work with you to put an embargo on your thesis or dissertation, and when you're ready to share it, you absolutely can. And another thing I want people and graduate students, everyone to consider, is that you guys have alternative OA publications, things like manuscripts, presentations, lesson plans. And again, people say to me, they're like, well, no one really cares about those things. No one's going to want to download those. Why do those matter? This is why they matter. This is, if you send your publications to the digital repository at Iowa State, you'll create an account, and then we'll create a profile for you and upload all your publications, and you'll get monthly download counts. And one of the benefits is you'll get this readership map that will tell you where your which specific publications are being downloaded and where they're being downloaded at around the world. So you'll see, this is mine. Most of them are coming from what is actually Ames in Des Moines, Iowa. It is maybe my mother downloading my thesis many, many times. No, it's not. She actually hasn't read it. But you'll be able to see where your work is being downloaded. This presentation, for example, is available through the digital repository. It's only been downloaded 5 times, but like Emma and Megan referenced earlier, if it was sitting on my hard drive, it would have been downloaded 0 times. 0 people around the world would have seen it. This way, 5 people around the world were able to be they were searching for information about open access and sharing their thesis or dissertation, and they thought this was interesting enough to be able to download it. So that's one reason you should go ahead and make your works available through the digital repository and through open access. Another service we provide is called Selected Works, and our faculty get super, super excited about it, but really I think you guys are our target audience for this. It's so, so great. It's a personalized website that we create for you. It has a stable URL, so it can move with you wherever you go. And it's not like some crazy URL like bpress.com 56713-5. Like, it's bpress.com/Hope Mitchell. It's my name. It's easy to remember, easy to find. And then it offers really flexible ways to share your scholarship, so you can organize it by document type or subject area. So here I have mine organized by subject area. History of prostitution is first. But then there's a faculty member in World Languages and Cultures, Michelle Schall, who I love her Selected Works page, mostly because I helped her with all of it, or get it organized. So she has all her peer-reviewed articles up here. She links out to some of them. Here she has an exhibition that she helped curate with university museums. So she has the exhibit guide there that you can download. She has the photos from the exhibit that they put together. We're working on getting some classroom activities that she did put up there. We're going to put up some roundtable video discussions that we had about the exhibit. Here are her book chapters, and then here's her dissertation, and here are her book reviews. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in the ways in which you can share your works. And kind of like we were looking at with Figshare or whatnot, this also has, Selected Works has a lot of other options for how you can share things. So yeah, if you want to share a video, if you want to share a presentation, it's not as broad as Figshare was, but we can make things work. You can contact anyone in the DR and we can help you try and fit your metadata in there and cite it properly and share it in a way that's helpful to everyone. And then as you'll see below, we also have the option for teaching work. So if you want to share bibliographies, syllabus, model exams that you create, anything like that, it can all be shared through Selected Works in the digital repository. All right, in conclusion, know your rights. Know what you're signing away when you sign those copyright transfer agreements. I was going to say this earlier and I forgot. Keep those copyright transfer agreements that you sign. If your house is on fire, grab your loved ones and grab those copyright transfer agreements. Seriously, because publishers are changing their policies all the time, and they're changing them in a way where they're trying to make them work retroactively, so they're making their rights more restrictive, and they're saying, well, this applies to everything. And they can't. They legally can't do that, but you can't tell them they can't do that unless you have that copyright transfer agreement there that says, no, this agreement that we signed says that I can use my works in this way. Keep those. Don't be afraid to negotiate with your publishers. If you're like, you know what, it's really important to me that I be able to share this on my personal website or on my departmental website, the worst they can say is no. They're not going to tell you, this is terrible, this is horrible, we've never had a request like this before, get out. That's not going to happen. So don't be afraid to ask for certain rights. And then the importance of maintaining open access after graduation. It helps you build an online presence. It helps you get a job, guys. People know that you're out there and you're excited about what you're doing, and they want to be excited to work with you. And then, like I talked about, it increases the visibility and impact of your scholarship. Oh, and I was going to tell this fun story. So, like I said, my thesis is about prostitution. This woman a few weeks ago contacted me from Oregon, and she said, I think that my grandmother is in your thesis, or great-grandmother. And it what? Like, and I was able to send her my research, and she was able to put together this family history. Hopefully other things like, well, more academic things come from it. But it's just a great way for people around the world who are excited about what you're excited about to find your work and work with you. So if you want a super awesome Selected Works site, you want to include your works in the digital repository, all you have to do is email me at digirep@iastate.edu. If you want to send me a CV or a list of your publications, we can go ahead and get started sharing those things. Otherwise, do you guys have any questions? Sorry, I know I talk really fast. Oh, yes.
You said the URL will go even after I graduate?
Yep. So yeah, let's say I get a job at University of Iowa. I can change the branding. I can take it with me. It's mine forever. I can do whatever I want with it. I should have mentioned that. Yeah. It doesn't need to be Hope Mitchell at Iowa State forever and ever. Wherever I go, I can change the branding on it to match whatever institution or company I'm at. So, yep. Anything else?
So,
oh yeah.
So if we're interested in Selected Works as a website, so we should contact this email and ask for...
Yep, go ahead and shoot an email to that address there, and I can work with you. And that's part of what we do at the Digital Repository. I will check all the permissions and copyright for you guys, negotiate with your publishers for you to make your work accessible. And the great thing I love about graduate students is you guys are doing a lot of, at least I did in grad school, a lot of conference presentations, posters and things like that. You own the copyright. I don't need to talk to anybody. If you want it up there, great, done, sold, no problem. So you guys are super, super easy to work with. I love working with graduate students. All right. Anything else? Nope. All right, I'll pass this back to Emma.
All right, so that is all of the content that we have prepared today. You are more than welcome to stick around. Before you go, we do have a brief evaluation that we'll get out to everybody. They're back there. So Megan will start passing those out. And just before you go, that we hope that today that you learned about a few new tools that maybe you didn't know about before. And please know that both Figshare and the digital repository, which Hope just talked about, they are open systems, which makes them great. So people really all over the world, like Hope said, will be able to find your stuff. And again, ORCID is that identifier that is unique to you. So it's not tied to the work that you're doing. It's tied to you as the researcher, and you can link your works on that website. If you have questions about any of those systems, if you turn out to not like one of those systems, by all means, don't use that system. There are other things that you are interested in that maybe we didn't cover today, you are also welcome to contact us about that. The guide that we worked off of today, I will email to everyone who registered for this workshop, and you'll have that. Hope's slides are also on there, and as of probably next week, this presentation will be recorded on that guide. Please contact us again if you have any questions. Hopefully you learned something today, and good luck with all of the research that you'll be doing in the future. We look forward to hearing from you if there is anything that we can ever help you with. And feel free to stick around.